Welcome to Pollination Media, a place where we like to have all sorts of interesting chats. I'm Christine Nelson-Parks.
And I am Louise Clark.
And I'm Fred Ray.
How exciting.
It's very exciting.
I just thought it would be great for us to have a little, a little opening chinwag about why we're here and what we're hoping today might bring for us. And I want to revisit the stuff that's going on in our world at the moment that we're all living through, living in, lifing through, and what we may or may not be finding challenging, tricky to talk about, on a daily basis. And one of the things that I don't know what anybody else feels, but what I experienced last night, I went to see the Book of Mormon last night, and I loved it, and I laughed. The thing that I realized from the process was how much laughter, I actually had from 2 hours of just hooting hilarity and completely inappropriate comedy, like just all wrong, all bad, all good, because it was funny, to actually just be laughing about ridiculous things. Not that I'm suggesting that Mormons don't think what they're saying is very important. Probably there weren't a lot of those there, but it was the feeling of joy being with my family. So I had the whole family there, and just laughing. And the thing that has really stood out for me is that I didn't realize how much I haven't been laughing. That there's so much going on in the world that I'm not, I love a good knee slap. There is nothing more fabulous than a guffaw and a snort and a laugh and elbowing someone about how funny something is. There is nothing more important when things are so challenging for us at the moment. So, I don't know. Thoughts, feelings?
I suppose I've just spent the last 3 weeks putting on a good laugh comedy festival. So, I kind of know where you're at there. Let's all have a good laugh because, yes, I know exactly what you mean. And it's certainly kind of my philosophy when I approach my daily existence is to have a good laugh and to try and keep relatively light amongst all the heaviness. So I can understand. It's also good for our nervous system as well to have a good laugh. Yeah,
100%.
And there's nothing like 100%. Loads of people coming together and actually laughing as well.
Yeah.
And then also the generosity of laughter. It's a very generous thing to do as well when you're engaged in a kind of, communion of people sat there in one space and then you're all laughing together. It's a very kind of joyous, connective moment. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, same. Loved it.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of a piece of advice the three of us were given at the start of last year in the MBE prologue by Daniel Schmachtenberger, which was don't stop loving sunsets.
Yeah.
And what he meant was things are dire in some different circumstances, and there's lots of problems and there's lots of things going on, but all the beautiful things in the world are still there. And if we become consumed by the problems and the sadness and the negative feelings, we're also missing all the things that we're fighting for. And along with that, no matter what happens, there will still be sunsets. It doesn't matter what happens, the sun will still set every single day on this planet, and there will still be beautiful things. And it's such a good reminder that it's not all with beauty and joy and laughter, it's and like the work and the state of the world and doing the hard things doesn't. We can't do it without having those beautiful things with us as well.
Yeah, it's for those of you who are listening who don't know who Daniel Schmachtenberger is. Daniel Schmachtenberger runs the Consilience project. Is it Consilience project?
Yeah.
An amazing systems thinker. Pretty wild cat, pretty intense human being. Louise, look at her face. Yeah, but he's not even but and one of the greatest minds, because the ability to hold the complexity in a conversation, just as you've just, we've talked, you have a conversation with him about collapse, and what can we be doing, like the call to action sort of stuff with him. So he can hold the complexity of, okay, it's all going to hell in a handbag, but also you got to walk down the beach, you got to look at the sunset, you got to connect with nature, you got to spend the time that the stories that he talked to us about with regards to hospicing, spending and dedicating some of his time to sitting with people who are palliative and that are dying. So even not just those who are unwell, but those who are aging and have lived through their life and are getting to the end of their journey on the planet, and what a gift that had been to him, because it really reminded him of the importance of immersing ourselves in all that is remarkable and a gift as well. So we'll have to put his website into the yeah, definitely for you guys.
Thank you, darling. Yes.
Woo! Yeah.
Wow. And then also on that note, that kind of like sunrise, then you got the sunset, haven't you? The sunset on your life and how it is all coming to an end. And that I am way past midday and coming into kind of, afternoon time. And then I suppose there is that kind of, I suppose what happens, isn't it, that when you get into I've experienced that when I've got into my early 50s, that there's a kind of call to action, or sometimes it gets referred to as a midlife crisis, but then a kind of reflection back on everything and a reckoning with your own life and your own choices and everything. And then also kind of going, oh shit, well, yeah, I've got to do something and I've got to make my life worthwhile and I've got to be able to do something collectively together before, the sun sets on my life. My goodness.
Can I ask a question? And this is potentially going to steer me into offending somebody, but I'm going to do it anyway because I do represent the under 40s.
Yes, you do, Fred.
Under 35s, actually. We'll say under 35.
I am. I'm offended.
No, so this goes to the what's in the world kind of question. But part of the AI conversation is also this transhumanism discussion, because it's been a body of work for people for a long time, but now it's like
Fred, you're
probable
frozen.
in for anybody that's listening that doesn't know what. For anybody that's listening that don't know what transhumanism is, it's actually like modifying the human body through technology with lots of different end goals, but essentially with the hope that somebody could live forever. So the question is,
and most of us are transhuman, correct? Because most of us have had some sort of intervention into our bodies of some description.
I mean, and it's a scale, right? Vaccines, dental procedures. My mouth is completely transhuman because I just ate too many sweets as a kid. But the thing that comes up a lot for me when we talk about transhumanism is the avoidance of dying. Like it's, and this is where I'm coming to the I don't want to offend anyone necessarily, but I'm slightly earlier in the piece, and so I'm thinking a lot about I want to have the right to die. That's an important thing to me. It's a part of a cycle that's gone on before me. It's an important part of being human is that there's a start and there's an end, and making meaning is important because it's limited. But I'm wondering, does that perspective change as you get older and suddenly you're in the afternoon and you're not in the early morning when you can do whatever you want? Like, does transhumanism start to become more appealing?
Definitely not. I think the idea of being transhuman would be absolutely terrifying. It would mean that you would have to kind of every single day you'd be having to hold your life so preciously, because it's just, it seems incredible to even think about the idea of existing forever. Oh, it'd be so depressing. No. I like that idea of dying. It is scary, like the idea of kind of, oh, I'm not going to be here anymore. But then also that just makes the whole point of life, doesn't it? It makes it's the reason why we have poetry and art, and we contemplate, and philosophy, and all of the things. If we're in this continual state of being and existing, it would seem like actually that is what hell is, if you can describe what hell is. You know what I mean? Like the idea of being perpetually around, and then you would also be in a cycle of just watching everybody pass on as well, wouldn't you? Who isn't transhuman or have got the capacity to be able to live forever, or gets hit by a bus. I don't know, but yeah, you would just would seem terrifying. Do you remember that episode from Doctor Who where they stretched that woman out onto that big? Do you remember that? Is anybody into Doctor Who?
No, I need more detail. Give me more detail.
God,
I know I love Doctor Who.
But it was a future. I watched all of them with Jai, and then I've almost watched all of them with Oni. It's like, and now I'm just waiting for Olive to catch.
Hang on. You're not talking about the ones from the 80s, though. You're talking about ones from like the 90s.
I'm Tom Baker. Like, that's my generation. But then I've moved into generations because of like children, and then of course, what's his face? I can't remember his name now. He was like the most amazing one ever. The one before Matt Smith, but Matt Smith was still really good as well. But anyway, I can't remember which Doctor Who it was, but they go into the future, as they do with Doctor Who a lot of the time, not all the time. And they had a woman, she was only skin, and she was like, it was like she was like a pigeon. She was stretched out on this big, and then she just had this funny little face. She was like, and the eye was just hilarious. And she had been kept for like thousands of years or something, stretched out on this kind of canvas with this funny little face in the middle. I'll put it in the show notes, the picture of it. But if you've watched Doctor Who,
David Tennant, yeah.
David Tennant. Yeah. He was the best. Anyway, yes. So seems terrifying.
Well, so I'm going to challenge it. So I'm a little bit older than you are. And I think it's really interesting because the people that I have in my friendship group range from, younger people like you, Fred, to much older people, coming into their 70s. People are having their 70th birthday that I'm getting invited to, which is a fucking spin out. But anyway, they're turning 70 and they want to celebrate, and so they should. So I don't know. I think that it's really interesting to watch how people are choosing to prolong their lives, like what they're doing to their bodies in order to prolong their lives. And it's not just going into a hospital to have a procedure of any description. Obviously, there's the stuff that I referred to yesterday when I was like, oh my God, what do I look like? Like, I'm getting old. I'm conceived and I'm looking at myself here. What happened? Oh my God, it's not how I see myself either. That's what's really interesting is so would I've never have entertained cosmetic injectables at all. But gee whiz, there's a part of me, the vain, egocentric part of me that goes, oh no, I've talked to you about it. Okay, it's much better anyway, those sorts of things, which obviously plays into this space, but also that whole tech bro, how are we're going to biohack our lives. We're going to stay alive longer, or we're going to, I have a relative who has had himself, cryogenically, I don't know what you even call it, embalmed. He's in water. He's like with Walt Disney, hoping that they'll find a cure for cancer and he'll be able to come back. Like that. That's really truly what he wanted to do. you know, so it's an interesting time because our fears are making some big decisions for us, I think. And I'm hoping that I've got genetically, I've got a grandfather who lived till he was 104. I'm going to my aunt's 98th birthday, who's absolutely fit as a fiddle. So I think I'm pretty well fucked. I'm going to be here for a really long time, and my kids will be like, when do we get the inheritance? Like, when do we get the house? Is she seriously still here? And she can't hear me, and so I imagine I'll be here for a while. And there's a part of me that goes, I'm only halfway through then. Like, I'm only really, I'm not even in whatever you called it. I'm not even in the afternoon. I'm like, I'm at brunch.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it is how we age, isn't it? And then who has access to be able to age well. And, depends on kind of, your upbringing and the class you're in, how much money you've got. It's so many questions. I mean, I've got, and then also, like, I've had a child who's 7 years old. So that means I'm going to have to live a really long time in order to be able to see any grandchildren, which is really confronting. So while I talk about obviously still wanting to die and not be transhuman, there is definitely part of me that kind of goes, I would like to make it until early 90s, mid 90s. Hopefully then I get to see a grandchild from Olive or something like that, that's not just a baby, really is. And then also be healthy. So there's a point of living that long, but then also you actually want to live well up until that age, when a lot of people don't, they live in pain for 10 years before they die.
Yeah.
Fred, I can tell you want to say something. Go on.
No, just there's two things that were interesting in what you both said. And Christine, you're talking about the ego and wanting the injectables, and then Louise, you're talking about wanting to see grandchildren, and those are very different reasons to engage with prolonging your life, transhumanism, whatever it looks like, right? Like, and the tech bro transhumanist sphere feels really very much in that ego frame, right? Which doesn't feel like it's in integrity with actually like even being alive. It feels like it's part of this same snatch and grab, gobble it all up, build the fastest AI company, get all the wealth in the world, live forever kind of vein, as opposed to like being generous, wanting to be with your family, wanting to be involved in the human elements of life, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of a complete denial and anything that makes us actually human, isn't it? To kind of step away and then not be bound by our own humanity and our, which the capacity to be able to die, which is a beautiful, I guess, isn't it? Being able to lean into that.
Isn't it also interesting that people that if you take this conversation, I mean, the complexity of the even noticing is huge, because I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the world's a little bit fucked at the minute. And the thought what does it look like to be how old am I? Turning 60. So in 20 years, so I've got 20 something year old kids. So in the next, I don't know, let's say the next 5 years, they'll probably want to have kids, because I know they both want to, which is interesting given that the world is, tricky at the minute. And evolving into whatever the next bit is, are we moving into that whole great simplification? And if that's the case, do they know how to change a fuse box? And do they know how to, ride a bike to the station instead of driving? Like, have we had such economic crisis that we've had to change all of the way that we live? Has that taken place? Because at the moment, that's what we're kind of moving through. We're moving through, and certainly that's where we have all come together with an interest in our world and what a good society might look like. What does that mean to us? And what does it mean to our children and our children's children? So as we get older, there's, the whole cycle of all of this is interesting, because it's not just about us, and it's not just about whether my face looks young, because I'm struggling with what I'm looking like. I'm surrounded by people who, as I've just said to you, are in their 60s and 70s and have had so much Botox and so many fillers and so much work that I don't even recognize the faces of the people that I first became friends with. Like, it's kind of weird. Well, it's not kind of weird. It makes me sad. I'm sad. I'm saddened by it. Because they don't want to actually have a conversation about the planet and overproduction of certain foods for animals, or carbon footprints, or growing their own vegetables, unless it's fad-like, unless it's kind of a cool and interesting thing to do because everybody else is doing it on Instagram. And so there's a part, I kind of go, I don't know. It's weird. It's a big conversation, I think, Fred.
Yeah.
Is it equal men to women? Sorry, is it like your friends? Is it more women, or is there kind of a balance of gender?
Oh no, I think it's both women and men. Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of want to, I'm curious, and I want to go into the world is fucked as a topic, and I actually kind of want to push back on it, because it's a massive narrative.
Ahead. For me to say that the world is fucked.
No, and I say it all the time. I don't know, X amount of minutes ago, I referred to the talk that we had with Daniel Schmachtenberger, and that was absolutely that's the narrative that he talks about. Not in those words, and probably a bit more intellectualized than that, but that's also part of a rhetoric that excuses action, because I don't
100%.
And we've talked about this as a group in a different setting about collapse. Collapse and the world being fucked are two different things, because collapse, at the face of it, collapse is exactly that. You're like, oh, this is bad. But lots of people, we heard from AC Grayling not so long ago about being a student of history, and knowing what the cycles of human society and civilization look like, the ups and downs, because collapse is just the end of something. And as a good friend of ours, Sarah Proud, SP, shout out, said in her presentation on A Good Society, which was, what comes after collapse is compost, and then the regrowth and the new things. And so are we thinking the world is Dunsky, or are we looking for what's going to grow in the compost? And what are you both seeing, and how are you both feeling about that?
I guess this is what this is about, isn't it? It's a preparation of the soil, and that collapse doesn't have to be this kind of negative connotation. It's that kind of, we spoke about it yesterday as well, that kind of cycle of life and what comes out of it, and that everything has a cycle, and you can't have this kind of infinite growth cycle. You can't have the biggest broccoli in the world. You've got to cut it, and it's got to collapse. The structure of the plant is going to collapse and go back to the earth, and the soil gets regenerated and something new is born. And I guess it's kind of tending to the soil at the moment, isn't it? Tending to that soil, kind of going, we're here, we know what's going on, there's a cycle going on, we're coming to the end, we're at this point in history, and there's so many things going on as well. There's a global thing. It's not just kind of in a particular country or in a particular state or part of a state, it's all of us together. Some people have already in collapse already. you know, so we're just kind of rolling into it. And I guess it's that kind of tending to the soil. What are we going to be like? How are we going to hold everybody as we go through this process? That's why I'm here with you guys.
Yeah, me too. Same. Me too. I mean, that's the whole evolution of this. If I thought, probably Fred, if I thought maybe I need to reframe my thinking around the world is fucked, but I think I'd rather put an end after fucked end. So I do think that we, on average, are in a place of, I know I'm saying what the fuck quite a lot. Like, I'm like, what? Like, just, there's a lot of, how do we get here? What decisions were made to get us here? And what have we learned? And what are we going to do about it? And now what we're doing about it is this. We're talking about it. We're talking about it and hoping that other people, you know, there will be an audience for this. We're hoping that people will want to have these sorts of conversations, the conversations that are sometimes really challenging to have. But I suppose when I think of, I think how we view things comes from our journeys to now, and that take us to the next bit and the next bit and the next bit. And I don't think that we'd bother getting out of bed in the morning if we didn't think there was going to be a next bit. So even if we're dragging ourselves out of bed for the next bit, it's because we care enough to, well, I can speak for myself. I care enough to want to be dragging myself out of bed for the next bit. But I can tell you that there is, for me personally, I can feel pretty fatigued by, I can feel pretty fucked. You know, like I can feel pretty, I don't know, you know, I'm tired. I'm tired and I'm surprised by the lack of kindness that's happening in the world and the lack of willingness to have conversations that are tricky. Like, I find there's a part of me that wants to shake the world, you know, pick up and go, what's wrong with you? Has anybody seen the movie? I don't even know what it's called, actually. It had Cher in it and Nicolas Cage. It's a really old movie. And she plays this Italian woman, and she's going grey like me, and Nicolas Cage is in love with her, and they're in the Bronx, and she's frustrated, and she shakes him and slaps him across the face and goes, "What's wrong with you? For God's sake," you know, it's this most hilarious thing. Moonstruck. And it's such a good movie.
I think I've watched that movie.
It's a really great movie, but it's more that, so that's how I feel, Fred. Like, for me, it's like I just want to go, oh, come on, let's go. We can fix this. Come on. But it takes all of us. And yes, the wheels have fallen off, but that's okay. We don't need that anymore. We'll build something new.
The like shaking the person thing, I think, is interesting though.
Yeah.
Well, like, you know, I get that feeling. Like, I 100% get the feeling, and I feel like I'm moving through that phase, because I think that actually the shaking is not like me shaking other people. It's being shook. And to put that into like a story, like the three of us went to the Small Giants Wisdom and Action Forum on trust in the age of AI. And we sat in a room full of people who were lucky enough to be in a position to be in the room, right? Like, it's not an easy space to get to. When you think about this, you've got to be in Australia, you've got to have the means to go, you've got to have had the background and all the things that go into it to have been able to be in the room, to be a part of those conversations. And they were conversations about really big stuff, existential crises, collapse, things we're talking about, the threat of AI, the theme of the forum was trust in the age of AI, and it was really big questions. And the second day of the forum, I was like running late, and I didn't, like, the stupid guy from New South Wales didn't know that it was free transport in all of Victoria at this point in time. So I'm like getting Ubers. I'm paying for Ubers everywhere. So I'm running late. I jump in an Uber to go from Collingwood to Abbotsford, which is no space at all. But I'm so glad I did it, because I got picked up by a gentleman who was from Lebanon, and it's freezing cold that morning. And I get in the back of the car, and he's like, we drive down the road, and he sees me like warming my hands up. He says, no. And he stops the car, like, get in the front, like makes me get in the front. And I sit in the front with him. And he's just asking me like stuff, and talking. English is a second language. And I ask him, like, how long have you been in Australia? Not long. And I said, well, you must be pretty interesting what's going on at home. Like, are your family okay? And he's like, oh, like, I have a family here with me, but I have sons in Lebanon with their mother. And he shows me on his phone some of this is getting into a gray zone with, traffic rules and the laws around being on your phone. But he's showing me on the phone this WhatsApp stream from his relatives, and it's literally explosions and buildings collapsing. And it's not a news feed, it's from his family. So this is happening for this gentleman. And I go to the conference, and then we're back in the spaces, the big conversations, the existential everything. And then at the end of the day, wraps up, a couple of drinks with some folks. I go back to the to the hotel. I walked this time. I didn't have to get an Uber. And then that night, there's somebody staying in the room next to me had a complete mental breakdown.
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah, and it started. I initially just thought it was somebody who had had too much to drink and was having a good time. But then police came, and like a partner came and to try and talk them down and get into it was like a whole thing. And I felt like really humbled by that experience, because in the midst of this, like, being in the circles and the people that you don't have to shake, having these two very grounding experiences either side of it, of like, maybe some of the shaking is ourselves as well. And maybe there are conversations that we could be having just to listen, because there's a lot out there. And I think that any condition of the world not being fucked is being willing to listen and being willing to have these conversations, being willing to be the person that gets shook and slapped by a shirt.
Oh, wow. I like that your day was sandwiched like that, by like kind of raw humanity, sandwich of humanness, and then a bit of AI kind of,
and then the AI luncheon meat in the middle. Yeah.
Wow, what a day. Yeah, God, so sheltered and privileged in Australia. My God. Oh, just so privileged. Or maybe, yeah.
Yes, we are. And when is that okay? So it's interesting. So how do you I'm sitting here in a 3-story house 2 doors from the beach in Melbourne, right? And, I'm one of those people who're privileged enough to be able to pay to go to Wisdom in Action and to, travel, the world and do all sorts of amazing things. So how do you so I do a lot of shaking of myself. like a lot of shaking of myself, a lot of shame around and guilt associated with privilege. It's quite an interesting spot to be in, you know. And I'd had a conversation earlier in the week with someone who is, you know, quite senior in an organisation that is making a difference, like quite an impactful organisational leader. And we're talking about accountability. We're talking about what makes us tick, what makes us, what, you know, when are we not the victim? When are we accountable for our choices and our behaviours and our, you know, are we just the people who, as some comedians tell stories like, you know, we are concerned about the planet, we are concerned about the world, and we do all that we can. I take my own bag shopping, you know, like when are we beyond the I take my bag shopping spot? Like when are we willing to? There's only so much beating up of the self that you can do to a point where you become, what's the right word? Not useless. It's not the word I'm after, but almost not good for yourself. Like you're not good for anything if you've bashed yourself up so many times about you know what the way we are and where we are. We are where we are. So there's a moment of breathing it in and then breathing it out and saying, okay, so here is where we are. We are here. We can't. You know, Lou and I, we talked about this yesterday. We are where we are. So give in a different way. We're talking, you know, we were obviously talking about climate change and climate denialism. We're not going there again, but but you know what I'm saying. So we are where we are. So given that we are where we are, and quietly connecting with people where they are and listening to people, listening to ourselves quietly and listening to the stories, like the stories that, you know, that you've just told me. Story is everything. Yesterday when we were doing a podcast, we had a break and I had a phone call from a government organisation who's assisting my sister who's on disability, and she's a pretty complex. She's a complex person. She's got a lot going on, and the woman was really angry when she rang me because we've got to pay for some hearing aids. You know, and why hasn't she got back to me? I've got to pay for these hearing aids. And I said, yeah, okay. I'm happy to pay for the hearing aids. I said, sure, no problem. I said, she's just not very good at the moment. She's actually pretty depressed. Getting out of bed's a big thing for her. She's really struggling. So I'm sorry that I was unaware that you need me to pay for these hearing aids, but I haven't received an invoice. And yeah, I look after her I look after her finances and I look after stuff for her in the best way that I can. And this woman changed. Like she was, but that's where she started. By the end of it, she went, "Oh, yes, that's so kind. That's so," and it was like, I wasn't even saying it because I'm kind. It's just this is the situation. There's this, and I feel like that shirt frontiness. Maybe that comes from my feeling that everything's a bit fucked. I was like, okay, I don't know.
I think there's been such a focus on the fact is that, I don't know, a breaking down of society, and then also this standpoint of kind of sitting here and market forces and neoliberalism, and then we've all got into this kind of hyper individualization that we've all sitting on our own kind of solo island, and you know people like the climate the fossil fuels have got us where we want, with the kind of carbon footprint, which is, obviously a term that's made up by the fossil fuel industry as well. So we can just spend all of this time reflecting back on our own selves and feeling like shit all the time because I haven't fucking recycled properly and I accidentally put that piece of plastic into the wrong bin, and then I haven't brought my straw along, and I didn't bring this, and I bought too much shit, and I've spent too long on this. And it's just this continual internal self-reflection where you're continually looking back at yourself, which can just send you fucking mad. And actually it's bullshit. It really is. I mean, it's also kind of, we're not solo creatures. We're all completely interconnected, and it's about society, and it's about meeting each other. So the woman on the phone, she's had a stressful day. She's like, I need this, I know. And then she meets you who you just speak calmly. It's like when I've had to call Centrelink a couple of times, or a lot like when you call, the doctors or something like that. They say, I would like to speak, you must speak respectfully to us when you talk to us, and we will not put up with any. And I'm like, the poor people. And so I'm always uber nice, just to kind of like have a bit of a chat, yes, Centrelink is a bit annoying, but we're going to get there. I don't know, we're just in these kind of solo islands of craziness, and it's not of our own making, and we need to be kind to ourselves, and we need to be kind to each other, and we need to come together and kind of go, yeah, this is not what we kind of signed up for. Did I sign up for this? No, I didn't. I never vote for Margaret Thatcher, thank God. Woman was a nasty piece of work and broke down society and didn't even believe in the concept of society. But I guess it's like coming back together and finding each other and kind of going, hey, we're over here, I'm a human being, you're a human being, let's get together, let's help, and what do? We're stewards of this amazing earth. We're sat on this land in Australia where we could learn so much from the people that have been here before, because all they did was look after the land so goddamn well. We've just kind of lost our way. Anyway, sorry, I got a bit passionate there.
No,
I think we're here for the passion. Yeah.
Definitely here for the passion.
I'm over here. Hello.
Woo-wee.
Come on, everybody. We can do this.
I love it.
The conversation about privilege is very interesting, right? And like Louise said, I think it's really tied up in that. It's firstly, it's complex in the truest sense of complex, because it's not any one thing at any one particular time, but it's very tied up in the individualism. Like, even to be at the point of self-aware of privilege, you're in a unique position as understanding yourself as a contributor to things and a recipient of benefits, right? And I think because I also have this thing with privilege. I'm also in a privileged position. I paid for myself to go to the conference. I was also in the position to be able to do that, living in a country where we have, Medicare, and I broke my hand once. I went to the doctor. I had an operation. And I paid $0. I had all this follow-up physio, all these things that didn't cost me a cent. And I'm not all the way there and figuring any of this out, which I don't think I am with anything. But with privilege, I think that it's one of those things where you try to jump to it being one thing or another thing. Like you're privileged or you're a part of the solution. Like you're privileged in a
He's gone.
I'm back. We trying to make something binary, right? And it's part of something that I am feeling a lot about a present moment, which is we try to steer away from tensions. We tend to think that tension is this thing that we don't want. And I think that it's been confused for friction. A tension holds a bridge up. And without the tension, people don't get across, right? Like tension keeps the high walker on the rope and not plummeting.
Tightrope, yeah.
Yeah. And tension is important because if you can hold within the conversation of privilege, your position of privilege and the things that you've been afforded, and your responsibility to be a part of a collective or be a part of making the world better. And we pull that open and hold it, like the privilege of like, I should be able to live in a three-story house, two streets back from the beach in Melbourne, and enjoy the fact that I worked hard to achieve that, and pay my respects to the fact that I've, benefited and stood on the shoulders of giants. But at the same time, understand that I have an obligation, because I'm a human, I'm a part of a community, I'm a part of a country, like I'm a part of nature, like, then pull it open and hold the tension, and then carry it with us in our lives so that we're aware of those things. And that's, I think, a healthier place to be in than to try to jump to one end or the other, and be in the like, oh, well, I've earned this, I don't need to or oh, I need to, my privilege is ruining the world, I need to go all out on solutions. There's a tension to be held, and we're not going to get it right every single time, but it's a part of helping us navigate.
Do you think that the conversation that we're having now is a conversation that people have in their houses? Do you think when people have, so we've gone through COVID, right? Which was an interesting time for everybody, where we were unable to sit with one another in a house for a period of time. Gathering in groups was considered potentially dangerous and all sorts of stuff, right? So we went through this time where we had tension, and we had to work out what the bridge was going to be, and we didn't know what the bridge was going to be. We had no understanding of what the outcome was going to be, but there was a longing for closeness and connection with people again, that closeness and that non-siloed living. So we were kind of siloed from a health perspective globally. We're globally siloed. And depending, even in Australia, on what state you were living in, you were siloed for longer. Do you think that now that we've been through something like that, and we now are able to be with each other at whim, and able to have, 6 people over for dinner, do you think these conversations that we're having, do you think people are having these sorts of conversations?
Potentially. I don't know. I do. I'm with myself quite a lot. So I don't know. What do you think? I mean,
I don't know either.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not good at chit chat, like small talk. I'm not great at sitting around. I like to get into the nitty gritty of stuff, and some people kind of get a bit like, "Oh, Louise, we have to touch on that." I'm like, "Yeah, but let's have a little bit of a chat." It's interesting, isn't it? Finding out and having a, I know,
dropping the bomb in and seeing how everyone copes. Yep.
Yeah.
What about you, Fred? What about your people, your tribe?
My people, the under 35s, the young folk.
How are they out there?
You talk about COVID. And I think you both know I'm playing the LinkedIn game. So shout out for liking my content. And I recently posted about COVID sending me into a cave, right? It just became such a good excuse not to engage with people. And I don't believe in extroversion and introversion always being a stable one characteristic. I've been an introvert and been an extrovert, but I really went into the introverted thing. It's a long way of me telling you that I'm not super well connected to all the young people, and my wife laughs at me because I went and did the MBE with you both, and then I came back and I'm telling her about all these people, and she's like, "Are all of your close friends now just the over 50s women?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my crew." So what are the young people talking about?
Yeah.
what are the young
Woo!
people talking about? I don't always have a good read on it, I would say. But I would say that I think people, all people, are having important conversations at home in their circles, and I think that, you know, there's this thing, right, particularly right now, there's a lot of pressures, competing pressures, because you've got a cost of living crisis, which is being driven by it's being driven by lots of things, but you look at the situation in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz and how that sent oil prices skyrocketing. Now, that's a result of a whole different situation that put a particular person in power in the United States with the ability to do something like that. And there's then competing with, you know, the climate crisis, which we're not going to go into, but everybody in their respective homes is having important conversations in these things. It's just that they're not always open slather on the things that we want to talk about. And the language isn't, you know, Christine, you talk about the vernacular, like the language isn't all the same. I think people are having important conversations, and I think that's kind of part of our job with what we're doing here. Isn't just to sit here and talk, but it's to go away and to listen and to have the conversations and hear what the important conversations are being had, because it's not our role individually to sit here and say this is important and that's not important, like, and to scale and to be like, okay, we just have to get together and solve firstly AI, then the climate crisis, then the cost. Like, that's not it, right? It's not going to happen that way, because that's not how humans are. It's not how nature is. It's not the true face of complexity. It's people are having those important conversations. It's what's important to them, and it's how do we surface that? How do we bring it together? How do we make the conversation broader than the narrow few, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the beauty of what it is that we're trying to create here, is the way to a place where people can platform what important conversations that they are having and or that they would like to have. And I love that from a place of learning, we have come together, even we over 50s with you under 30s, this, you know, conglomerate, like this minestrone soup of really all very different individuals coming together, all because there was whatever sort of drove us or pulled us to want to be amongst one another. And I love that this is what pollination can be, is a gathering place, a sitting around the fire, you know, kind of breaking bread with one another, and you know, the opportunity for us to go out, to bring our tents together, or our caravans or our little homes or our tarps or whatever it is that we're using to sleep in the back of our car, I don't know, whatever, how we all rocking up. And I don't know if you remember doing this. I loved doing this as a kid, going out. Everyone would go out with a bag and they had to find kindling for the fire, because you're going to have a big fire, and you know you're going to have a big fire, and you know really that if you're going to have a big fire, there's more than likely going to be marshmallows on a stick. So you are in a pretty good, and you can be dirty. You can be dirty, grubby, dirty, you know, and independent. You can independently go out and forage. So all of this good stuff is happening. And quite seriously, when you're going camping, you're also in a position as a young kid to be able to scope out where's a good place to make, like, not set up camp, but like a really good cubby house where you can actually start to rest, you know, bigger logs and sticks together and then weave grasses through them and do all this amazing stuff. I love that that's where we're at, that we've all backed our cars in. We've all said, yeah, let's meet. It's a good idea. think we should go camping together, and I'll bring, I'll do this, and who's going to cook that, and what are you going to bring, and and oh yeah, I've just had some friends call up and they'd really like to come. Is everyone cool with that? Yep, sure, that'd be great. The more the merrier. And here we are. Here we are, a group of unlikely characters coming together with a desire to invite people into the house, or build a cubby together,
Yeah. Sit around the campfire in the unknowing, the amonging. I had a beautiful. Do you remember the interlude one? And then I was in Kings Canyon, Waratara, whatever it's called, and then I was with a load of kids, 14, 15-year-olds. You remember that? And it was just like the best night. And we had all those questions that we had to answer. We had to sit around and have a chat over dinner. Remember those questions? And I was actually around the campfire and just watching the kids engage in these questions was just so beautiful. So raw and gorgeous and authentic and so serious. They were just so I've got this beautiful photograph of us just sat around the fire answering all these questions and contemplating life under the stars. It's just beautiful. So much kind of faith in humanity when you have moments like that.
That's good full circle right back to the Daniel Schmachtenberger sunset.
Yeah, sitting around the fire. Love a good big fire, really do.
Yeah, it's a nice tie together. That's the loudest email I've ever heard in my life. It's a good tie together because I think that, those conversations, it changes how I feel about the state of the world and the scale of how fucked are we really to sit and talk to people. And I didn't come away from those experiences that I mentioned earlier, either side of the Wisdom and Action Forum, as feeling worse about the world. Paradoxically, I felt a lot better about it.
Yeah, me too.
Because the ability to sit and have conversations with people, to see that dialogue is alive, conversations are alive, humanity is alive, it's out there. And for another time, but I'm doing my smartphone experiment of I don't have a smartphone, and starting to remove some of these layers that stop us from actually talking is giving a lot of faith in the fact that we are okay and going to be okay. We have some tricky and hard stuff to do, but it's right there and everyone is ready. So many people are ready. Just get the stuff out of the way that's stopping us from connecting.
Yeah.
I'm about to have kids walk in the door.
Ooh, how exciting.
Yay, poet, River.
Oh, exciting.
You just got what kind of phone have you got? Just a brick phone, just a Nokia or something? Just old school?
Yeah. It's a brand I've never heard of. Yeah, called Ruio. Button phone.
It's really difficult to find one, isn't it? It's not easy to find a non-smartphone that is
so good. So great.
Like Nokia. I love my Nokia. It was so robust as well. Hi.
I think we've had such an ace day in this conversation. Can I say ace? Anybody who's from the 1960s and 70s knows what ace is. Ripper would be another way of putting it. I think we've had a ripper chat, and I love.
You wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say that in England. Ripper chat. No, definitely not. That's it would just be like saying, it's like Jason and Kylie. We'd probably refer to you being like Australia and in England,
kind of
you know,
am.
you can't say, but the thing is, yeah, like Ripper, for me, that was just like, that would be, like I said dude once in England, and people just looked at me like I was some kind of, I was from, you know, Fred and Ted's whatever adventure. It was hilarious. I love these words. Anyway, sorry, just context of words.
Okay, well, I won't, I promise not to. Well, I can't promise
You can
it.
use
I'm sorry.
Ripper.
I just
I like
cannot.
Ripper.
So I think we've had a bonza special day today, and I've loved guest bagging with you both. And I think what I'm going to take out of today is that we are all willing and open to having the conversations and listening as openly and honestly and groundedly as we can. And I think that there is nothing quite so wonderful as friendship and connection. And there is nothing quite so wonderful as chewing the fat on stuff that sometimes feels a bit orcs and a bit uncomfortable, and that it allows me to just remove the layers and the masking that I often feel that I've got to wear in order to kind of get through the next day. So thank you to you both for giving me that space to be me. Same to you.
Thank you, darling.
And I remember now, we would love to invite you to join the Water Talks whenever it is that we are on. And we would love you to subscribe. And any references to anybody that we think has been fabulous, see a river, that we think has been really fabulous and that might be of interest to you, we'll make sure that we put in the show notes. And until next time at the Water Talks, we wish you well and have the most exceptional time. Enjoy your sunsets. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.